Welcome to Hope for Your Pelvic Floor, the podcast where we stop managing women's symptoms and start making sense of their bodies. I'm Claire Sparrow, Pilates educator, pelvic health specialist, and best-selling author. Here we talk honestly about what women are told, what the evidence actually says, and how real change happens. Welcome back to another episode. Today we are talking about something that I've had to psych myself up a little bit to talk about because it's something that women will come and quietly ask me about at the side of the room, at the end of a talk, at the end of a class where nobody else is listening or in earshot. They usually put their hand up to their mouth and kind of whisper to me what's going on and ask me this question. It's never in the middle of a group. It's never when I'm teaching or doing the Pelvic Health Cafe and I open up for questions. This is something that even I am a little bit embarrassed about. I mean, not today because I'm kind of over it now, but I certainly have felt a little bit embarrassed. And when I stopped to think about what was embarrassing for me about this particular topic and this question, I realized it was because I didn't actually know what it was. I didn't understand it. It made me feel like there was something wrong. I didn't want to admit that there was something wrong. And I know you're wondering now, what am I even talking about? What I'm talking about is queefing. There's loads and loads of different words for what this is. Queefing is the one that I think most women might be aware of. Although as I've started talking about this a little bit on social media, I did a newsletter not that long ago talking about and explaining about this. I also got messages from people explaining to me that they'd never heard that word before. They didn't know what it was, which made me recognize even more so the need for us to actually do something about this and get out there and talk to more people and explain to more women what this really is. What is it? And some of the other names that you might be more familiar with are fanny farts or vaginal flatulence. And today we're going to dispel the myths because it's way more simple and straightforward than we might even imagine. So don't worry if you've never heard of it. Maybe you've never experienced it, or maybe you've got friends who have experienced it and talked about it. But this is something that does happen quite commonly, quite widely. And for me, I didn't even know what it was until I experienced it myself. This is true. When I had between my second son and my third son, I will never forget the moment on the reformer, in my happy place, getting my body back. I guess I was maybe 18 months postnatal, and I was just feeling so chuffed to be back on the reformer. And we're doing a movement called long spine. And this is a movement where you've got feet in the straps and your feet go up in the air and you're kind of balancing on your shoulders. And this uncontrollable kind of vaginal gasp happened. And then an equally uncontrollable noise as I came down from this shoulder balancing movement. It was mortifying. In that moment, I kind of felt like everybody knew what had happened. Everybody heard it, but really nobody heard it. It felt like a big deal for me, but it wasn't in reality as big a deal as it felt in my own body. And I'm sure that some of you have had that experience too during an exercise class. Maybe you're doing something like hanging upside down or doing feet in straps or even doing something like bridging in a Pilates class can cause that intake and then outward sound of the air. The thing is, it's not only in exercise that this happens. It actually also happens during or after penetration. So if you're having sex, maybe it happens then. Maybe it happens afterwards. Sometimes it happens mid-movement as you're shifting position, like rolling over in bed. Not even when you're having sex, just rolling over. It can happen. and sometimes it will happen afterwards. However, it happens is pretty mortifying on the most part. From the women that have asked me the question, it's felt mortifying because often it is this scenario when you're trying to keep a sex life alive, but you feel a little bit different down there. And this doesn't really help if you're worried that you're going to have this queefing situation when you actually do get time and energy and space to cultivate and work on your sex life. So it's not unusual. I want you to be really aware of it. It also doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in this episode because I want you to know really kind of what's happening rather than skirting around it. We're going to just learn what's happening. And the hope for me as I explain a little bit about the kind of structural changes, why it might be happening and what's happening, that actually you feel a bit of relief that this isn't as big a deal as we think. I was talking to some women about this the other day about how something in our head feels huge and we are kind of prone to escalate a thing in our head because we don't have information about it. And then when you speak it out in a group of women, like at our Pelvic Health Cafe, if we talk about something, there's an immediate sense of relief, an immediate sense of calm and comforting almost, because you realize that you're not on your own, that there's not something wrong with you, that this is something that's commonplace and it's something that many women are just not talking about. So we've talked about some of the names. We get fanny fart, queef, vaginal wind, vaginal flatulence, which actually it's not like the other kind of flatulence, despite the name. And it's nothing to do with digestion. It's nothing to do with your bowels. It's absolutely nothing like that. All it is air. Air. That's all it is. Air has come into the vaginal canal and then it's leaving, just as it did that day when it first happened to me when I was up in the long spine and my shoulder balance and I could feel without any control. I couldn't do anything about it. The air came in and the air came out. In that moment, because I didn't know what it was mortifying. But here now, as I speak it out to you, I go, well, this kind of makes sense, actually. Air comes in the vaginal canal and then it has to get out again when you move and pressure changes. And isn't that a great thing that you are moving your body, that you are doing something, that you are having sex, that you are living your life? These are good things. So I'm going to just go a teeny tiny bit into the anatomy part of it. And it's not to kind of embarrass ourselves talking about it. It's just to be more curious and understand a little bit more. And I'll keep it as simple as I can, right? So the vaginal canal is lined with folds of tissue. This is called rugae, and they're very important because the folds create space for things to go in and out, whatever that might be. These create little ridges and pockets and surface area along the inside, the canal wall, if you like. And think of them like tiny little suction cups. This is what works for me, certainly, to imagine it this way, that all those little folds and ridges make little suction cups. And as the name suggests, those suction cups, they kind of draw air in. So those pockets draw air in during movement or during penetration. And they then expel the air again when you maybe do something. Any kind of movement can cause this. Often it's upside down, inside outy things. During Pilates, for example, it's with movements where you're bending at the hips, inversions where you go upside down. Like I said, even bridging can do that. And it's the change of angle, the change of the pressure inside the vaginal canal. And the air that was just sitting there, you might not have felt it go in like I felt it go in. You might not have even felt air go in there, but air's gotten in. And then it was just waiting for some kind of movement to let the air back out again. During sex, it happens as penetration alters the internal pressure of the environment, and the movement pushes that air back out. It's just air. No gas is produced, nothing wrong with your digestion, nothing wrong with your vagina, nothing escaping from your bowels. It is a complete mechanical event involving the perfectly normal architecture of your body. And that happens, it's the sound that makes it feel so deeply embarrassing and inconvenient. But it's just air. It's just a sound of the air leaving. And that's the thing that I want you to sit with. You can't really stop it. It's not something you can clench your way out. Squeezing is not going to change that internal architecture. It's just what it is. And pressure changes. That's normal. We need to exercise and move and have a sex life. So we can't deny the normal physics of what happens when a hollow space changes shape. It's your body doing exactly what bodies do. It's just the embarrassment because we don't know. It's in our head. We think about it. We worry about it. We avoid the things that might cause it. And then we're not living fully because of something that's normal. We just don't know it's normal. That's huge, isn't it? I think of this really very often, how things to do with our pelvic floor, our pelvic health are limiting our lives, limiting the choices that we make, the activities that we do. And that's pretty sad, really. This is something that is so normal. I want to, speak about it here so that it can become normalized, that we can just talk about it. So let's talk a little bit more about why. Why is this happening? Because for me, it didn't happen and then all of a sudden it was happening. So the folds had changed in there. So it's not automatically a sign that your pelvic floor even needs any kind of attention, or it's not that there's something wrong with it. Many women are experiencing it regularly, like, on the reformer or in the bedroom, and they have a perfectly well functioning pelvic floor. It is a simple kind of part of how their body is moving through the world. And they don't have any incontinence or prolapse or any other kind of symptoms of pelvic floor dysfunction. But for some women, like myself, particularly women who are postnatal or postmenopausal or navigating prolapse, it can become a little bit more frequent. And there is a reason for that. And it's because of the experience and the changes that happen in that vaginal canal postnatal. So after birth, during birth, after birth, in that realm of life. The geometry changes. You might have a shift in the tone of that tissue. You might have more of those folds in there because the tissue has had to expand to let baby out. This is really, really normal. Sometimes in perimenopause and beyond, it's the reduction in estrogen levels that affect that tissue quality and the elasticity in that vaginal canal. And that can change just how the air moves through it. Air's going to move through it. That's just fact of life. It just depends on what the geometry, I love that word, geometry of the canal is. What's it like in there? That's going to influence how much air goes in, how it comes out, whether there's sound or no sound, the frequency of that happening. So when we've got this queefing experience or the vaginal flatulence, whatever you want to call it, if it becomes more frequent and more, maybe it's more noticeable, there's maybe more volume, or it happens for a longer period of time. So the length of the queef, if you like, is longer than it was before. The answer isn't simply, you know what I'm going to say, do more Kegels. It's to look at the whole picture. How are you breathing through movement generally? How you manage loads and pressure across your whole body, the whole system of you. how your pelvic floor coordinates with the rest of your body, which obviously is a more interesting conversation looking at your whole body pelvic health rather than being in denial about this one teeny little thing that's happening that actually isn't a reflection of the function and state of your pelvic floor. It's actually just this normal thing that happens. We just happen not to talk about it. So we don't talk about this, and it's just so important. And people are not mentioning it because, this is happening at times where we're not really, we don't talk about our sex life often with friends either, do we? So if this is happening a lot during sex, you're not then going to talk about it. Because nobody talks about it, nobody talks about it. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, doesn't it? And there's a cost to that silence. And I say that with love and care because we're silent about a lot of things. As women, we tolerate a lot of things. And this is such a small thing and a relatively easy thing for us to overcome and talk about. Like I said, the cost of the silence is stepping onto the sideline instead of stepping into the life that you want to live. Because of the shame and embarrassment of this, are you avoiding having a really active sex life, the sex life that you want to have? Are you avoiding going to Pilates class? Are you hiding in your life instead of really stepping up and being active and fulfill the way that you want to? I really, really want you to pause and think about that question. Are there things you're choosing not to do? And we're talking about queefing, but maybe it's something else that's holding you back. Maybe it's your prolapse. Maybe it's incontinence. Maybe there's pain. All of these things that we are dealing with as women are things that we can support you with. The whole body pelvic health method I created is for you. It's designed to support you with all of the gamut of your pelvic health so that you can really step into and live the life that you want to live, so that you're not controlled by queefing. You're controlled by what you want to do. This is so important. We're going to start to wrap up the episode here today with an invitation to you to perhaps share this episode with a friend, to pass on this information to somebody else. This is the place where we're talking about the things that maybe you're too embarrassed to Google. And if you're too embarrassed to Google, how many of your friends are also feeling that way? Or maybe you're not talking about it, but you are Googling it. This is the chance for you to help with the ripple effect of sparing somebody else's feelings, sparing it somebody else's embarrassment and shame about something. It's only queefing. You've got folds in your vagina that take in air and let it out again. We need to normalize it. It's just what happens. If you've had lots of babies, I've had 3, so there's more folds in there. So more potential for air to come in and air to go out. It's just a normal part of life. Thank you so much for being here on this episode today. Your body is not doing something wrong. It's doing something mechanical and entirely human and normal in a way that is shaped by your anatomy, your history, your hormones, and the perfectly normal geometry and physics, the physics of movement and the geometry of your vaginal canal. The embarrassment was never yours to carry because it's not something to be embarrassed about. And if you want to be in a space where you can ask these questions and all the other ones that you're carrying quietly on your shoulders, where no one fixes their gaze on the ceiling and avoids the topic, no one laughs, nobody's wrong. This is exactly what we do at the Pelvic Health Cafe. It's free every month and we talk about it all, so please come and join us. I'll pop the link below so that you can join. We bring real women together to talk in that community. The kind of questions you whisper to me at the side of the room, we talk about it in that Pelvic Health Cafe. No shame, no embarrassment. All topics are on the table. No judgment. You can find the link to that below. I'll pop it down below. And if there's a woman in your life who has gone quiet in Pilates class when the carriage returns and their feet are up in the air, please share this episode with her. She probably hasn't Googled it either, and she does deserve to know. Thank you so much. As always, I appreciate you listening. And if there's one thing, as always, I want you to take from today, it's this. You are not broken. You're not behind, and you're certainly not alone. There's always hope for your pelvic floor, and I will see you in the next episode.